All right, so this is a reaction a day later from the blockbuster news that Shams broke yesterday regarding LeBron James signing a 2 year, or rather intends to sign with the Philadelphia 76ers, a 2 year deal with a player option, $8 million. Dollars. Um, just a day later, and I am actually still in somewhat of a shock because I really thought that it was going to be between either Miami or Cleveland. Those were, I thought, like it was like a two-team race. I essentially thought between those two teams. I knew he wouldn't go out west because he's like LeBron is looking to put himself in the best position to capture his fifth championship, and I don't think that he could have done that anywhere in the Western Conference. Just the fact that you would have to go through OKC or San Antonio to get to the finals, and he's not going to go to any of those two teams because then it would just really look bad on to a lot of people. It would look bad like he's just really like out here ring chasing. So I knew he wouldn't like go to those two teams, but I thought it was probably going to be more Miami because of the relationship that he has that seems to be have been repaired over the years with one Pat Riley, his familiarity with Coach Spo, and with that city playing there for 4 seasons, winning two championships and two league MVPs, two Finals MVPs during his tenure, his previous tenure. They have now Giannis to go along with Bam, and I just thought that that's probably where LeBron was going to be, but here he is now, and he ends up with the Philadelphia 76ers. This makes it very interesting in the Eastern Conference because on paper, you can argue that the Sixers have the best starting five in the league. I mean, you're going to have Maxey, Edgecombe, LeBron, and Jalen Brown and Joel Embiid. So that's a really tough starting five on paper. However, I don't know if we can like rely on those guys, at least two out of the three I've named, night in, night out, being one LeBron James solely because of this point in his career where I think he's about to be 40. I think he turns 42 in December, going into year 24. Who's ready to rack up a ton of mileage during the courses of NBA career. So I don't think that it's realistic to rely on him at this stage of his career, night in, night out. I can see him playing around 55, 60 games. And of course, there's Joel Embiid, who just has a history of nagging injuries, and they seem to pop up at the worst time, the most inconvenient times, to say. So you always got to take that in consideration because we know with this NBA, as we've seen, like health plays a huge factor. I would say more than ever, especially considering with the pace and space and how the game's played today. So that's going to be something to keep an eye on. Can this team stay relatively healthy in the season and in the postseason? Um, I thought that this team, prior to LeBron going there, you can make a legitimate argument that they can be possibly a they could be the favorites to represent the East in the finals. That was just after the Jalen Brown acquisition. Um, Now you add LeBron James to the mix, who was all worldly, and probably a top three player to ever play the game. So you could only imagine like that's just going to make it even more interesting and give them a better chance to win. Now, I would say that I did mention yesterday on my IG posts, my stories, that I thought that I'm not going to go as far to say that they are the definitive favorites to represent the East. Um, I still probably give the edge, even though we haven't seen a repeat champion in 9 years. I would probably give the edge to the Knicks right now, just because of what they did, the familiarity. Um, this run I thought was very pivotal for them. This past run, in which they captured their first championships in 1973 as an organization, I thought that what they accomplished, built up a lot of like equity and everything with that team. And I think that they can take that and roll that into next season and build off that momentum that they had there. So I'm still gonna respect them because they are the NBA champions. Boston, I'm not gonna say that I think they're gonna be possibly better, but I'm not gonna sleep on Boston. I know a lot of Boston fans are sour, especially now because the fact that they essentially gave Philly an alley oop, right? And I'll go into that later. But the fact that they traded away Jalen Brown, a cornerstone of that franchise, in return they received Paul George, who at this stage of his career, you can't really rely on him and everything. A good player, but 36 years old. He's kind of like on the downside of his career. But I don't think that they have a culture. And if Jason Tatum could be relatively healthy along with Paul George, I think that this team can be a serious threat in the Eastern Conference. I actually still believe that. So yeah, I think those teams got to be respected. And the fact that and I think too, like even a team, I know it's we haven't really seen injuries have derailed this team, but they were in the finals last year, and that would be the Indiana Pacers. I feel like if they were to play, I'm just going off what my last the last recollection of what they were able to do with Tyrese Halliburton at the point guard spot prior to him getting hurt. That team, with the way they play, with the man movement, the ball movement, the pace, the way they get out in transition and everything. I feel like that team could potentially be a matchup nightmare for the Philadelphia 76ers. As you got, like, I think Joel Embiid would be damn near virtually unplayable against a team like the Indiana Pacers if they are to get back to that level of basketball. And even LeBron James, too, and to a degree, LeBron James, I don't think he'll get play off the court like Joel Embiid would, but it's not going to be ideal for somebody who's 42, who's going to be turned 42 years of age this upcoming season. So I just look at that too as well. That yeah, okay, they really do have it locked down with their starting five on paper. It looks great, but we still got to see how these pieces fit, because you got to think about it. Like three of those guys at least on the perimeter operate best when the ball's in their hand, and I'll even throw Embiid in the mix too, because he operates best when the ball is in his hands. So that's Maxi, Braun, Jalen Brown, Joel Embiid. Like, they all need the basketball to really thrive to the best ability. Now, we did see LeBron this past season did like dial it back a little bit in order to get the most out of Luca in AR-15, with like being kind of like the all-purpose Swiss Army knife, the third wheel, if you want to call it that. So he can possibly do that again. A guy of a player of his caliber with his IQ, I think that he can definitely possibly pull that off again. But still, it's going to be interesting. I think that this can kind of be in a similar situation like we saw in Miami when the Big Three, the Heatles first transformed and everything with Braun, Wade, and Bosch. It was a rocky start. Everything didn't go smooth. They ended up that first season, and they ended up reaching the NBA Finals, but lost in six to the Dallas Mavericks and everything. And you see like some redundancy there with Wade and LeBron. And they kind of like, I think they clashed stylistically, and it really wasn't until the following season when Wade like wanted Braun to be more assertive, and in return he would take a back seat, and then they went on to win two consecutive championships. So I think that we could see something like that play out, where it's not going to be smooth in start the season off. There could be ups and downs and like roller coaster rides and everything. That's very well in play, I do think. Now, I did talk about the Boston Celtics essentially giving the Philadelphia 76ers an alley oop, and of course, I was referring to the fact that they traded away Paul George, or rather traded away Jalen Brown in exchange for Paul George. And if that move doesn't happen, I don't think that LeBron doesn't go to Philadelphia. I really don't see that happening. I think that he probably would have been gone to either Cleveland or Miami if that was the case. Because I firmly believe that he would not really entertain going to the Western Conference, just because of that vicious road that you have to travel, and on the beating that will take, and a toll it would put on your body and everything. So I think that he had his sights essentially set on being in the East. So so they essentially get in the alley oop. It's kind of like what we've seen, and I tweeted this yesterday too, kind of like in the summer of '07, when Kevin Garnett was looking to get out of Minnesota. Boston was not a team that he wanted to go to until the Boston Celtics made the trade, which landed them Ray Allen. And once that happened, KG rather, you know, flipped the switch, and he welcomed being traded to Boston Celtics. They landed him in the summer of '07, won the championship that season, that following season, I should say. So yeah, I just thought about that initially when that trade for LeBron went down, because I'm just like, man, they really, really, just really helped the Sixers out tremendously. And if the Sixers are to win a championship in these next two seasons, granted LeBron does play next season, if he returns for a 20 record setting rather 25th season, then man, it would be ugly in Boston. I think a lot of people, a lot of fans would be extremely frustrated, and I would say rightfully so, just because the fact that they traded Jalen Brown, one of their best players, the 1A, 1B with Jason Tatum. Not only do you trade him, but you trade him. Like, not only do you trade him within the conference, but you trade him within the division, a division rival, a team that just knocks you out of the playoffs, beat you for 4 games to three, while overcoming a 3-1 deficit. So you trade him to that team, which allowed them to put them in perfect position to land LeBron James. So it's like, damn, like you're gonna be frustrated, and Brad Stevens has done, I thought, a relatively good job. This I know this trade hasn't been received well by a lot of Boston Celtics fans and everything. I'm referring to the Jalen Brown trade, but at the same time, I was going to give him the benefit of the doubt because I thought that he possibly had another trade in play in the works that he could possibly make and a deal he could make. But yeah, seeing now Jalen Brown being paired up with LeBron James, and if they're able to have success and ultimately capture a championship, it's going to make a lot of people in Boston frustrated. And I wouldn't say that I would necessarily blame them, but we are going to see what's going to transpire. Um, so LeBron now, playing on this vet minimum, which is just insane. A guy who can still put up on any given night, age 41, can put up 25, 7, and 6 on any given night, is now playing on the veteran minimum. And I see a lot of people are using this moment to, call LeBron a ring chaser, a bandwagon jumper, going from team to team, trying to put himself in the best position to win an NBA championship. We have to realize that there's no way LeBron was not going to get a big salary from any team. And I see a lot of people too, well, due to the fact that, the second apron is in play now, essentially a hard cap. A lot of teams don't have the money to spend big time money to spend on a guy who's 41 years old, even if it is LeBron James, one of the greatest players of all time. It's just not feasible in today's NBA to pay a guy that type of money, and LeBron knows that. And then I see some people who are like, well, why didn't he just stay with the Lakers if that's the case? But you got to remember, I think that there was some egos. I think LeBron's ego was hurt, and I'm not saying that to be disrespectful or anything. I think we all have egos, or somebody, especially somebody of that greatness, that caliber of a talent like LeBron James, is going to be, of course, you're going to have an ego. Who wouldn't? So I do think his ego was hurt. Luka being traded there, and they essentially overnight really put the focus the Lakers organization did on Luka Doncic and building for the future with Luka, as opposed to LeBron, who has been there, brought them a championship back in 2020. Has helped the franchise that a historic franchise who prior to him arriving in LA was just essentially a laughingstock of the NBA, if I'm being honest. A team that is an organization that has guys in the past such as Wilt and Kareem and Magic and Shaq and Kobe, just were terrible in the 2010s until LeBron came, and that kind of steered the ship for the Lakers and put them right back on the path that a lot of people are accustomed to. Laker fans, I'm referring to, and he helped get them a championship in 2020. So yeah, of course, LeBron felt he did a lot for the organization, but he didn't essentially feel that the love wasn't reciprocated and everything on their end. So I think he just wanted to get out of there. And I know it'll probably hurt him the fact that he is he's happy with his life in LA. He loves it out there. His kids go to school there and everything. But I think that this really was essentially like a basketball move because this is Philadelphia, not a glamorous big market, but not a glamorous market like in New York or LA or even the Bay Area. So he is just now playing with the Sixers and everything. As far as his legacy, I think his legacy is it's intact, man. The guy has what, 4 rings, 4 league MVPs, 4 final MVPs, played all-time leading scorer in NBA history. Um, Several records that probably may never be broken. I think he's the only guy who was top 10 in the NBA too in points and assists. Like the guy, his record is set in stone. I know a lot of people. I think I seen a clip of Charles Barkley on Stephen A. Smith's podcast saying that if LeBron was able to win 2 championships during his tenure with the Sixers, lead them to 2 championships, that he would be the GOAT in his eyes, not Michael Jordan and everything. Um, I'm not mad at anybody who feels that way. I don't share the same sentiment, but you can make a legitimate case for LeBron. Honestly, you can make a case for him right now if you want to take the stance that LeBron is the GOAT and you have plenty of evidence to support your case. That's how phenomenal of a career that LeBron James has had. And the fact that, and I did mention like earlier, people are talking about him ring chasing and everything. I just think that he has essentially earned the right to put himself in the best position to win an NBA championship, to win another one. He wants to do that badly at this point. I mean, he's all about winning now because, like I said, I read off his resume. He's done so much in the game. He's really accomplished everything. At this point, he would just really need to like add more um, hardware to his extensive resume. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. And I think too, I didn't mention too. I know that Tyrese Maxey is a clutch client as well. That possibly played a big role with LeBron going there. LeBron, and I meant LeBron is fond of JB, despite the fact of what he said back in, had to be, was that, I think it was last off season. I forget what game he was at. Oh, it was probably at a summer league game when, you could see him mouthing while he was sitting courtside, Jalen Brown, that Bronny's not a pro, and LeBron took offense to that. But it sounds like everything is cool despite that, because LeBron wanted to team up with Jalen Brown, a guy who was finished 6th in MVP last season and MVP voting, I should say, and led his team without Jason Tatum to the second best record in the Eastern Conference. I think LeBron sees the potential there, and he wanted to go and join him. But yeah, this is going to be interesting. Um, and I'm just waiting to see what the schedule is going to be now, because LeBron James, man, like Adam Silver was kind of getting on LeBron, and I think the reports came out that LeBron wasn't really happy about that. That Adam Silver was essentially pressing him to, make a decision. We got to make the schedule, man. So now here we are, which is crazy that LeBron still has that most power in the NBA. Not the best player in the league anymore, but still by far the most popular player in the NBA. He is still a box office attraction, still at this late stage of his basketball career. That just speaks to like the pure greatness that he possesses, is LeBron. So I do think that I did tweet yesterday, Sixers versus Lakers on Christmas Day. You can book it. I stand by that. I think that they will be matched up. It makes sense to me. Like if LeBron didn't go there, I could potentially see the Sixers playing on Christmas Day, playing probably Boston, the Celtics. And I think that wouldn't be like the first time that they play in the season. That would probably be like the second or even third game in which they played in the season, just because they're in the same division. Whereas but the fact that LeBron James is now on the Sixers, and it's Hollywood. I would assume that they're going to play in LA on Christmas Day, like all the drama that they can build around that. LeBron going up against his old team, the guys that decided to move on from him, and like but they're focused on the young star that is Luka Doncic, and they can build up all that drama. So I do think that LeBron is going to have to play on. Well, yeah, he has to play on Christmas Day. He's the, like I said, the most popular player in the league. But I do think that they're going to meet the Los Angeles Lakers on Xmas Day, and I do think as well that I don't know if they'll play on opening night, opening week certainly, but will they play on opening night? I think Charles Barkley said that the Knicks have to play. Knicks have to play on opening night because of they won the championship. It's the ring ceremony. That's a given. So that will be night game one of the opening night. And then he was saying game two needs to be Philly. I don't necessarily think that. It doesn't have to be Philadelphia. It's going to be. I don't think so. They can play like on because like opening night usually is on a Tuesday, I believe. So they can probably play on a Wednesday or even a Friday. Get the Philadelphia 76ers. Then this team is. I think that all eyes are on the Philadelphia 76ers now with LeBron there. Spotlight's going to be bright. They're going to get so many nationally televised games. I'm going to assume they'll finish top three. Knicks are probably going to be up there. Knicks, OKC, San Antonio, the Lakers are going to be up there as well too. And then I would say the Sixers because LeBron's there. And this is kind of crazy because it's kind of like new territory for the Philadelphia 76ers, a team who hasn't been to the conference finals since 2001. A team that has that so much like misfortune with the getting Embiid, um, and him missing his first season and him dealing with injuries, and then Ben Simmons, but not like further like really developing as an offensive player in terms of like his shooting ability and everything, and then the whole um drafting Markel Fultz and moving up in the draft to get Markel Fultz at number one, and then make that trade with the Boston Celtics, and which allowed them to get Jason Tatum at the three spot. So yeah, this team has had a lot of misfortune, but now that Philly really has something to look forward to with LeBron James. Um, Again, I said I don't know if I think that they should be the favorites. I think that depth will be a concern come playoff time. Although I do like what they have on the bench with Dean Wade and Anthony Simon, those two guys, that's fine. But we see it in today's NBA, you're gonna have to be able to go realistically in a rugged playoff run. You're gonna really have to be comfortable going 9 to 10 deep in today's NBA, like we've seen with OKC, like we've seen with San Antonio, like we've seen with the Knicks. Like you're gonna have to like be able to, just because of all like the injuries that can pop up in any second. With the, like I mentioned earlier, the wear and tear that these guys put on their body, causing all these like injuries, soft tissue injuries, whether it be a calf strain, hamstring issue, and everything. You're gonna need bodies, so that's going to be a concern. Maybe but maybe Philly will be a desirable. Well, I won't say maybe. I think that they will. They'll definitely be a desirable destination for um, potential guys on the buyout market. Because why not? Why wouldn't you want to go play with LeBron James? A lot of people look up to LeBron. There's a lot of talent there, and you can possibly be the missing piece to a potential championship team. So I think that is going to be realistic too as well. So they can probably look to build their depth when in the buyout market potentially. So, but we'll see. Um, yeah. So LeBron James is really a Philadelphia 76er. That is really really insane. And it kind of sucks now too for the teams that did miss out. Like, where do they go now? How do they look to get better? What does Golden State do to like put Steph Curry, who is still playing at an All Star caliber level? What do they do to surround him with the necessary pieces that can help him compete for another championship potentially? Like I talked about the West, it's a real dogfight, especially with OKC and San Antonio leading the pack out there. It's a dogfight. So they kind of dropped the ball on this, and even Miami. I'm seeing Miami, missed out on the big fish that was LeBron James too as well. So but you still have Bam, you still have Giannis. You're going to have to do something to fill out the rest of that roster and everything. So it's going to be interesting to see what these teams do who essentially missed out on landing LeBron James. But I probably would go with Miami out of all the teams that we thought LeBron James could possibly go. Oh yeah, and there's Cleveland too as well. I'm gonna say I'd probably look at like who I would feel best about those teams going forward. I'm probably gonna go with Miami just because Giannis is he's Giannis, man. I know he's been hurt like the last couple of seasons. We haven't seen the best of him and everything, but I think that new um this change of scenery, I should say, I think that this is really going to do bode well for the rest of his career. He's going to be motivated, like to actually like compete for another championship. Um, so I would just off the strength of that, I'd probably go with Giannis Antetokounmpo and everything in the Miami Heat as to who I which team I feel best about out of the teams that missed out on LeBron. Teams that were really in position to potentially land him. Um, but yeah, I just don't Cleveland. I'm not sold on the James Harden, Donovan Mitchell backcourt. We've seen what happened in the playoffs against the Knicks. Two guys who are like no. At this point, there might be no, well, definitely James Harden, a notorious playoff dropper. What I mean by that is that they're like their level of play like doesn't like stay at the same level in the regular season. It definitely doesn't go up, but instead it drops. And Donovan Mitchell is not that far away from having that label put on him as well. I think Harden just has more years in the league, so we have more evidence of that. So I'm not really sold on Cleveland and everything. And I mentioned about Golden State. What's the Western Conference? Not enough firepower out there to really compete with the big boys. But yeah, I can't actually wait for this NBA season. It should be a good one, and we just have to see what other moves can possibly be made.